Okay, moving that out of the way. Good morning. So, this is going to be a fairly quick little sermon, and it's about evangelism, that E word. The E word is often a negative word for some of us. I know that my first thoughts when I hear it is of the Bible-shaking guy who used to stand near the corner of Grand and Arsenal on the Pride weekend, and who, during our Sunday Mass on the grass, would be, while we were singing and praying, he would be yelling and screaming at us that we were all going to hell. I know others have concerns about evangelism, or maybe it's just evangelists. Besides the guy at Pride, I think of my personal encounter with a squad of people who were protecting mega-rich TV evangelist Kenneth Copeland. Did you know that Kenneth Copeland is the richest preacher in America? In 2022, he was worth $300 million. I first knew of him because my grandmother liked him and gave him some money. Later, I knew of him because he had, and still has, a 1,400-acre compound on Eagle Mountain Lake in Tarrant County, Texas, just north of Fort Worth, where his church, his airport, and his monstrous home are located. Long ago, in another world, I was an environmental coordinator for Tarrant Regional Water District, which is a raw water supplier for 11 counties in North Texas. Eagle Mountain was one of the 4 reservoirs that the district owned and monitored. The field team responded to all sorts of calls regarding situations that could possibly pollute this raw water reservoir. I was on the field team. One day a call came in that said raw sewage was spilling into the northern parts of the lake, so we went by boat to investigate. Because 300 feet from the conservation level water line of the reservoir belonged to the water district, we were well within our jurisdiction to be actually standing on that land. However, within minutes of our stepping out of the boat, 3 Jeep-type vehicles rapidly descended upon us. It was like a scene from a movie. These guys were hanging onto the sides of the Jeep, and they jumped off before the vehicle even stopped. Just imagine, can't you see it? Most of them had Uzi-type style weapons that were semi-aimed, ready to shoot. This was in the 1990s in a remote location. 10 to 12 guys with automatic rifles pointed surrounding the 3 of us who I can assure you were no threat to anybody anywhere. It was quite terrifying. They were Kenneth Copeland's people, hell-bent on protecting his property. Obviously, he was so rich that his image as a man of God, televangelist, could not be tarnished by this squad of gun-toting protectors. They did allow us to identify ourselves as state representatives, state officials, yet they did not put up their weapons, and further, they warned us to approach the compound in the future by land, not by water, and by checking in, not just randomly on our own. Regardless that they were wrong, we willingly left, as you can well imagine. Needless to say, after that encounter, it was very difficult to hear a gospel message coming from this preacher. Like I said, maybe it's not the word evangelism that we're so afraid of. Maybe it's just some of the people. There are several types of evangelism. There's direct, intellectual, testimonial, interpersonal, invitational, and serving. What is important about each and every one of these is that they share the good news of Jesus Christ. My day-to-day form of evangelism style is serving. It's what I do. I preach the gospel by actual just serving people, being with the people. Now, the Samaritan woman at the well is a good example of both testimonial and invitational style of evangelism. And I think it's that invitational style that really scares us, inviting people to come into our little sacred space here. What are they going to think? How are they going to feel? And how are they going to see us that's different from our normal lives? But this is what she did. The gospel story today begins with an odd occurrence. Because Jews and Samaritans did not relate well to one another, the idea of Jesus speaking to her was unusual. Considering that a woman was talking to a man without supervision was against all social norms, and it made it even more odd. Still, they talk. And he tells her things about herself that he couldn't possibly know unless he was someone very special. And he tells her about the living water, and she wonders, how can this be? So she's excited at having met this special one. She's so excited that he proclaimed boldly that I am he. That she leaves her water jar just as the disciples left their nets to go and tell of this one that she has met. Breathless, at least I imagine she's breathless. She shares the fact that the man that she has just met knew everything about her. She races to the village and tells all the people that she knows. He couldn't be the Messiah, could he? She exclaims to the people, come and see. She uses her own story, her life, as witness. So taken were they with her excitement, her story, that they hurry to see this man. Unlike Andrew, who invited Peter, or Philip, who evangelized Nathanael, this woman brings an entire village to meet Jesus. The people believed her because of her personal testimony and her personal invitation to them to come and see. They go to Jesus because of her, yet experience him because of their own seeing and hearing. When we share our sacred stories, people are introduced to the sacred. They realize that they have stories that might be shareable. They understand because of their own experience. Now, it's frightening, I know, for many people to talk about their encounters with Jesus, to think that anyone else would want to hear all that. I know how many times in the past I have hesitated to speak about this thing that has hold of me. Long ago, I would have rarely shared the strange and yet wonderful things that have happened to me throughout my life. Yet here I am. Sharing my story through action or by words is a part of who I am now. It's a natural thing. I came back to church as a 30-year-old. I already told you I was raised in the Southern Baptist Church and we were there all the time. But I left it, as is fairly common for young adults. I came back at the age of 30 because of my mom. She had left the Baptist church years before and had become a part of this Anglican thing. She was always an Anglophile, so this Episcopal Church was perfect for her. Part of the Anglican communion, it just fit. She loved it. Yet she saw more in it than just that. She saw a way of life. I was interested in her enthusiasm about it. I came because of her story and because she invited me to come with her. I stayed because it was a place for me to learn more about living the life of Jesus. So today, I'm going to invite you to ask yourself, why am I here? Who invited me? What did I find that made me want to stay? Ponder these things in your heart. And then I encourage you to ask yourself one other question. Who is Jesus telling me to invite, to come and see. You probably won't become a mega rich preacher. You may not even be able to get an entire village to come. But you will be sharing the good news of Jesus Christ. Is there anything more important than that? Amen.